My name is Lauren, and I'd like to begin this evening by recognizing that the museum and the University of Oregon are located on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional Indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. We recognize and honor all Indigenous people who continue to call the Willamette Valley home. I'd also like to recognize that this has been a day of anxiety and tension for many of us, myself included. So I thank you for being here and for finding the space to join us this evening. Although we might not be together in person, we do still want to hear your questions and your comments. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the chat feature or the Q&A box. And if you're on Facebook, you can use the comment box. I'll be collecting your questions across both platforms, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. As some of you may know, we normally host Ideas on Tap at Viking Braga Company's Southtown location. If you're one of our regular Ideas on Tap attendees and you miss seeing their staff as much as I do, drop a message in the chat on Zoom or Facebook and I'll pass it along to them. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. Viking Braga is currently open for takeout and for outdoor dining. So give them a call or swing by the next time you're looking for an excuse not to cook. At the end of this evening's program, please consider taking a minute or two to fill out a brief survey. I'll post the link in the comments on both Zoom and Facebook. Your feedback will help us improve future virtual programs, and you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card to Viking Braga. If you enjoyed tonight's program, please consider making a secure, tax-deductible donation at the web address listed on the screen. That's giving.uoregon.edu/MNCHgift. If you are able, we recommend a $5 to $10 donation. Your donation directly supports the museum's educational programming, bringing science and culture adventures to Oregonians of every age and in every corner of the state. Thank you. Before we get started, I have a couple of upcoming programs I'd like to share with you. If you're a museum member, we are launching a new program this month called Museum Chats. It's an opportunity for you to get to know some of the museum scientists, chat about their work, and ask questions in a small group on Zoom. On Thursday, January 28th, we'll be joined by MNCH Associate Director Scott Fitzpatrick. Space is limited and pre-registration is required. Email Ruth Hyde at the email address on the screen to learn more. The Member Chat with Scott is just the first of 4 chats scheduled for this winter and spring. If you'd like to participate and you're not yet a member, please visit our website to learn about the benefits of museum membership and to sign up. Lastly, I hope you'll join me next month for another Ideas on Tap. On Wednesday, February 3rd, Kelly Walker of the Oregon Zoo will be here to discuss the zoo's condor breeding program and how it's helping to conserve this critically endangered species. If you can't join us live for the program, we do post recordings of all of our virtual talks to the museum's YouTube page the following day, so be sure to check out any talks that you've missed. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening, Renee Mitchell. Renee is a writer, educator, and creative revolutionist. For years, she was a columnist at the Oregonian and was nominated twice for the Pulitzer Prize. Today, she is a doctoral candidate in education at the University of Oregon and is working to create a national example of how to empower and build hope and resiliency in youth of color with heart, emphasis on the art, love, culturally relevant social emotional skill building, and youth voice-centered programming. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint. This might be a little bit of a different kind of interaction because I'm talking about art, but I'm also going to perform some poetry live as well as have a video of me performing a poem. And then at the end, we'll make sure that we'll answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to start with sharing my screen here. And I'm going to start there. I hope I did this correctly. So this talk is called Art Saved My Life. And Maya Angelou is one of my favorite poets. But this particular poem that I have, or phrase that I have listed here, really speaks to, um, what I want to talk to you guys about, and how art really helped me ground and find my purpose. So here we go. So I always like to start out with some kind of just some framing, and I want to make sure that we get grounded, because you're going to be hearing, my personal journey, and I'd like us to start with some breathing, because I need some breathing too. So I have a crystal bowl here. And so I'm going to invite you to take a collective breath, and to breathe with intention by placing your hand over your heart, and take a deep breath in. And when you breathe out with an audible sigh. I just want to acknowledge that these definitely are challenging times we're living in. And so I want us to be mindful about how we settle into our bodies. And so as we continue to kind of breathe in and out together collectively, make sure you breathe in deeply. Um, just know that your being here today is a gift to me and also to yourself. And it takes a lot of mental strength, emotional strength, to face the difficulties of the times that we're living in, politically, socially, emotionally, physically, and still really stay present, and until the end of our time together today. So I wanted to breathe in gratitude. And as you breathe in and exhale in just a second, I want all of the things to fall away that are not going to be discussed or dealt with in our time together, things that are only going to serve as a distraction. And so when you breathe in and out, scan your body from your head to your toes, for any areas that are asking you for your extra attention right now. So we want to breathe in lovingly into those spaces. Breathe in. So all of you is welcome here. I also want to take time to acknowledge those who you know or may have heard about, who have been directly impacted by the coronavirus, especially with the additional weeks of the shutdown. I want to honor those who have been negatively affected by the wildfires, and the people who have lost their lives and jobs and sometimes lost hope. I want to honor all of them who are affected by life's twists and turns, honor them in our gathering today, and how we respect and care for ourselves. Breathe in. So your grief is welcome in this space as well. I want to also breathe in remembrance of the loving and creative energy of all the people in the room today, all the folks in your neighborhood and your state, and all the people around this place that we call Mother Earth, to all the people on the planet who have been, our ancestors who have paved the way, and all the people who will be. May our loving breath that we take together connect all of us. Breathe in. Make sure when you breathe in this last time, your hand over your heart with an audible sigh. Breathe in. And I thank you for being here with me today. So you have gotten an introduction to who I am, and this is my children's book that I wrote, and just I won't go into too much about my bio. So this is called Art Saved My Life, and it's all about kind of my journey of having to define my own definitions. You know, most times when people introduce me, they say S Renee. S, it stands for Sharon. That was my first name. That's my first name, and it was just one of the labels that we have in our lives that's supposed to, kind of have a meaning, kind of tell us who we're going to become. But there were also other labels that I had. I'm the fifth child, third daughter. I'm a middle child. Um, I have a gap in my teeth. I was teased about it relentlessly. I was very shy when I was growing up. I was told often that I was ugly, and I was clumsy. I used to trip over air. I was a very lonely child, even though I was in a big family. And you could see the picture. I'm right in the middle there, but what you also might notice is that there aren't very many Black people in that picture. It's just me and another girl, and so it was a very lonely experience growing up. So I felt really, really invisible. As you could see, these are the things that I was not told about, being smart or being worthy or being loved. But the things that I did hear were more negative kinds of things, like you're ugly and no one's ever going to love you. You never amount to anything. And so at home, I am. I just want to share a poem with you. At home, I am brown skinned, knock-kneed, and sullen. Coarse strands of defiant black-brown curls escape from my rubber-banded lopsided ponytails. She looks like me, that young girl in the bathroom mirror, hurriedly scraping a toothbrush across her gap-toothed smirk. I run 2 blocks, skip every other stair, then walk slowly so to not draw ire. I sit smiling at my desk on the front row. I see my teacher, white-haired and grandmotherly, same birthday as mine. I grin even wider this day. Ooh, 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 I know, I said, wiggling my hand like it was on fire. And then the dance begins. First, her eyes avert away from me, then her legs shift around my yawning absence, as do the rest of the students who look more like her. They all repeat the same dance, like every one of them, in the classroom, on the playground, in the lunchroom. I decide I must check out that mirror again, just to make sure I actually exist. So even at a young age, I experienced a lot of devastating kinds of trauma. Age 11, my father passed away unexpectedly. Um, and his death was attributed to the hospital not wanting to serve him as a Black man in the community that we lived in. Age 13 is when I first considered suicide. I was lonely and sad. Age 15, I was hit by a car. The first time of 2 times I've been hit by a car. In the hospital, 3 months, not having a whole lot of visitors. Age 18, my first semester in college, I was kidnapped, I was sexually assaulted. Uh, there were a lot of things that I was dealing with that kind of shut me down. And so this poem I'll share is called See Me. It is so complicated being a girl, at least a girl like me. See, I don't have the kind of curls that make me cute. I don't have the best of friends, the confidence, the dress up suits that make me more than what I am. Just everyday kind of average, and sometimes even less than that. And even my mangy cat Precious gets more attention from strangers, and I don't even care about the danger. I just want someone to notice me. So see me, but see me for the me I might one day be. See that tall, smart, beautiful girl who has grown into her size 11 feet. See the potential to be great that's all packed up and hidden inside of me. So look at me, but see beyond me. See beyond this shy, clumsy, insecure girl with broad shoulders and a gap-toothed smile, all the while fading into the background without a sound, who walks with her head down, wishing that someone, anyone would just stumble out of step, reach out and touch me, even tickle me, but just see me, see me, see me. I am here. Often, oops, I went a little bit too far. Often I felt like a punctuation mark, and I say that because I was always looking for some purpose to fill. I was always looking for someone to tell me what to do, or to give me some purpose in life, right? But one thing that was a kind of a standard is I did a lot of writing. I spent so much time alone that I'd love to write. It was how I processed information. And you could see this is a piece I did when I was in third grade. And the part of it says that it's the most important thing about my life is helping little kids and teaching them how to read and write. So I'm writing this in the third grade, right? But I always felt like, that was how I earned worthiness. It was to be able to do things for other people. And at the end, you could see the writing, and when I was going through the things I was going through, I said that there are parts in life when you have to defend yourself from bullies who are always picking on you. So it was always something that was happening to me at home, happening to me in the community, in my school. So writing became my happy place. Um, and so this poem I'm going to share with you is called Someday. Hey, you, with your head down, eyes brimming with sadness, bottom lip poked out like it's sweeping the floor. Why do you care so much about what they have to say? They're not talking about anything. Haven't even read your dictionary. They don't know that ugly, stupid, clumsy, that doesn't define you. Someday, you're going to find the world holding its breath, waiting for your words. Check you out in a few years. They're going to wish they called you friend. So I would write a lot, but I was always, burdened by a lot of trauma that was happening in my life. And so even though I had this like really, really successful career, very much in the public eye, people would stop me all the time. But internally, I just didn't feel that all this attention that I was getting, that I was worthy of it. So eventually, when I made a decision to completely leave my job as a journalist. I was a columnist. The year that I left, I was voted like the number one columnist in 5 Western states. Like it was like a big deal, but I just didn't feel like that I was really worthy of all that kind of attention. So I left my career and ended up, really, really struggling. And some of that was, the conditioning that I had, the things that I heard as a child, going through my head. Oh, you're never going to amount to anything. No one's ever going to love you. And your purpose is to be good, and so those are the things that I expected, and so this is how my life kind of unfolded with the way that I had expected it to. Not very happy. I was depressed a lot. I just was always feeling like, I had to work harder to be able to have a life that I wanted. So this was on the outside. On the inside, I was drowning, but people who saw me, they were like, "Oh, you're strong. Oh, and you're talented. You're this, you're that." And this is what happens often with Black women, is that there's this expectation that we're going to shoulder all the burdens of our community and all the burdens of our own families. And when we can't acknowledge that we need some support, like we're struggling and we're drowning, and people are like, "Oh, you're so strong." So I found this, and it really just kind of highlights what my life was like on the outside it was all of these wonderful attributes, but inside I was really having a very, very difficult time. And so I would continue to write to try to process, the disconnect between what people saw and what I was experiencing. So, I had spent a lot of my life like having my hand out like this, like, please treat me with care, please love me, please approve of me, please, allow me to be worthy. And it took, my life kind of like imploding, where, I had this high profile job I was now no longer at. I had ended my second marriage. I was like trying to figure out what my life was about, and I needed to go back to what I was good at, like what I was grounded in, and that is writing, and that is performing. And so I call myself a creative revolutionist, because the writing was the beginning of opening myself up as an artist, not only an artist with words, but also painter, and doing all these other things. And I had to figure out who I was. And so this quote I put there because really it's really about having the inner wisdom of knowing exactly who you are and what you're good at. So this is a poem that I had written, and you can find it on YouTube. And it talks about.
My name is Renee Mitchell,
And
my
I'm going to switch it forward just a little bit so you don't have to listen to the intro. And this is a poem that I wrote called "Art Saved My Life."
And I'd like to share with you a poem that I wrote called "Art Saved My Life," and it really explains the journey of me becoming a creative revolutionist. It's called "Art Saved My Life." It was an ending that led to the beginning of my awakening. So that is where I will start, at the point where I quit my job to follow my heart. 2008, I was at the top of my game. I was the #1 columnist in 5 Western states. It seemed like everybody knew my name. Unless you regard that as empty boasting, well, let me be precise. I was nominated for the prestigious Pulitzer Prize twice. I was so hot, seemed like even the flutter of my false eyelashes could melt ice. But in a moment of impulse, I walked away from the only career I had ever known. After 25 years, I had become an expert at cherry picking the words of others, sauteing them with my own, and serving up such a spicy banquet of salacious sentences you wouldn't even have room in your mind for dessert. Yet, my storyline fit the moral of the fiction that you told yourself about who you thought I was. See, you forced me to make my smiles the biggest outlaws that ever existed. You were always searching for them at their last known address. And so I'd grin, with eyes so blank that you could fill out every line and cash that happiness check without the bank ever realizing it was forged joy. Year after year, I tried to remember the steps to the dance with deception. Keep your weight on the balls of your feet. Right arm up, keep it tense, follow his lead. Stand with your feet close together. Step back with your right foot, then your left. Move your right foot next to your left, and you're back where you started. Now repeat. It may sound easy, but it was no small feat to take a back seat to my own life. But in public, I was the good journalist, the good mother, the good wife. See, you saw me, but you didn't know me. I was all show. So you couldn't tell I was so despondent, I wanted to crawl out of my own skin, shed my pain within like I was a courageous caterpillar, metamorphosing into something beautiful, something other. For far too long, my heart was torn and bleeding from brutal, haunting words and desperate attempts to help him remember I was the one in the white dress that he promised to love and cherish forever. Well, at least until he died. Or maybe until I died. And at the time, I thought those were such appropriate words to a song. Yet in real life, he was intent on moving that process along. So in a moment of lucidity, or rather what he called inherent stupidity, our marriage became liquidity. I quit him. I traded in my white picket fence dreams for my freedom. I was done. And eventually I quit my job too. And people thought I was crazy for following my heart. Heart don't pay the rent, they warned. But a heart, I learned, can restore passion to a deflated soul so weary and wounded she was blinded to her own possibilities. See, I believe a heart can hold my hand and rub my back gently and say, look again, one more time, look again, until the moment I could stand before a mirror alone and like what I see looking back. See, that is what art has done for me. It saved my life. And people always want to talk about social justice, about fighting for causes bigger than themselves. And that is certainly a noble gesture, a very worthy cause, to use your passion to call attention to violence and poverty and wars. But I say, to live your life authentically and genuinely, you first have to know how to be your own cause. Honestly, how can you save a life when you are drowning in misery and you can't even breathe? And how can you help someone find themselves when you don't even know who you are or even how to receive love? Go find your misplaced heartbeat. Understand that the people who gave you advice dressed in wolves' clothing, you can't, you shouldn't, you couldn't, you aren't, you never will be. Well, they lied. They lied to you. So forgive yourself, because you thought loved ones always spoke the truth. You didn't know. So be diligent in the search for the right expression of your own reality. Look between the cracks of life's cement and celebrate your weeds for having the audacity to reach for sunlight. Acknowledge your mistakes and treat them like you're on a scavenger hunt for wisdom. Disappointments are there to remind you that hope is alive and longing to be the refrain of your life's anthem. So be authentic and be real and be the best you. This is not an easy journey. You cannot be on this divine path and still live your life based on others' expectations. Sometimes social justice is wrapped up in the righteous anger of one who is done with what is and ready to embrace what will come. Righteous anger might be exactly what you need to step away from the seductive shadows of dark night and know that you are unquestionably worthy of saving your own life. And we are here, searching for answers just like you, wrapped up in the cause of unraveling life's reclusive mysteries. We are here listening and wearing our hearts on our sleeves and more than willing to help you carry your load that has your back bowed down so far that you can kiss your own toes. And together, let us lean into the uncertainty. Sit with the unanswered questions and keep them company like we are entertaining long-lost relatives who just won the lottery. Write, paint, sing, dance, do and redo, collect and reuse, create wonder. Find your voice in whatever language that your imagination speaks best. The creativity within you was always meant to be expressed, so pour out your potential buried within you before you rest in your final solo performance, because your dreams and your hopes should never be sacrificed, and dying empty means you lived your best life. And even when it feels like no one is listening, speak louder and let her be born. Let her be born with intention and handled tenderly, gratefully. Let her emerge from the midst where shameful secrets have burrowed so deeply into your bosom that you almost forget that they even exist. Let her speak to me through you so that I may reclaim myself and know that I am finally understood. She is the mosaic thread connecting us all in ways that we cannot even comprehend. She is the completion of your HEART, your beating heart. She is art. She is art. She is art. Let her be born. I quit my job to follow my heart. And this amazing, life-giving journey took me on a remarkable and creative journey that led me back to myself. That's the poem, Art Saved My Life.
Oh, there we go. So I just want to take a breath. There we go. So I really love to help people understand that art and writing was what really helped me understand like my gifts and also my purpose. And I have no regrets about the things that I have gone through, because it's taught me a lot about myself, and it's also led me on this journey of being able to help other young people. So sometimes what I found is young people get stuck in, like the phrase that you saw Maya Angelou in the first of the PowerPoint. They get stuck in the lies that people tell them about their own potential, and usually because it's based on the trauma of what someone else has experienced. But I wonder sometimes who I would have become if I was poured into the way that I try to pour into youth now. But at the same time, I would not be who I am without having gone through this process. And so everything I feel like I've gone through, all of the heartbreak, all of the trauma, the pain, emotional pain, the physical pain, the bullying, has led me to this point where I am. I started a program called I Am More with 3 other young people when I was a teacher at a high school in Portland. We started I Am More, and MORE is an acronym for Making Ourselves Resilient Every Day. And this is now a program started about 2 years ago, 2 years and 2 months, but it's gotten already 2 national awards about social emotional learning. And young people have been able to present at national workshops. And I feel like uh, all of these things, I would not be doing what I'm doing unless I had gone through that journey, to build a sensitivity to helping young people use art to be able to move past the trauma and the limitations that other people have placed on them, and then to find that they have so much more to offer to themselves and to the world. And so one of the projects that we're now in the process of implementing is a campaign called Spreading the Black Joy Virus. And it's very intergenerational. And we had felt like there's so much negativity going on in the world. What do we want? Because it's easy to focus on what we don't want. And it's easy to get caught up in things that we can't even change. And so I'm, having gone through the things that I went through, I'm teaching young people how to think about what it is that they do want and move move in that direction. And so we are now in the process of just doing projects that bring people joy. And so just here are the 2 websites for you to be able to look up more information. I want to make sure that we have time for questions. But this is everything that I feel so deeply about, and grateful for really understanding deeply how much art can transform people and transform youth, which is who I'm working with now. So I wanted to try to, I'll stop there and stop sharing my screen and see if people have some questions.
Thank you so much, Renee, for sharing with all of us your personal story and the importance of art in your life and how you're working with youth today to try and take those experiences that you've had and really put it out there into the world to help improve other people's lives and make the world a better place. So it's much appreciated. And I also enjoyed the breathing exercise that we started with this evening. So I hope that other people also got something out of that as well. So far, we only have one question that's come in. So I just want to remind people that if you have questions for Renee, you can post them in the chat or the Q&A on Zoom. If you're watching us via the Facebook live stream, you can drop one in the comments there. I have both things open right now on multiple devices. So I will get to your questions. So please do ask them if you have any. So the one that's come in so far is there any, or I'm sorry, is there a creative outlet or art form that you would like to explore that you have not yet explored?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I can't think of what that would be, because there was a time after I'd left my job at the newspaper where I was intentionally trying to focus on my creativity, what was inside of me. And that's when I wrote the children's book, The Awakening of Sharon, a shy and brown Supergirl. It was based on my experience. And so that was something I checked off my bucket list. And I also started like making quilts, and I did a show, and so I love doing that. I also started painting. You know, I had forgotten that when I was a young child, I would love not only to write, but I would love to paint. It just helped me focus, you know. And I have a picture of like maybe I was a kindergartner when we were painting the egg cartons. You know, I was just really intent on that. But I had forgotten as I got older, because of the conditioning, the negative conditioning that I was receiving, that was a thing that I love to that was part of the process of creating. And so I I just started painting, and just to see where would take me. And I ended up with my first art show. I like showed like 14 paintings. It shocked me. But that also started getting me painting. I'm a jewelry maker. I make clothing and jewelry and wall hangings. So I'm you know, when I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are the other artistic things that I haven't gotten a chance to really explore? I don't know what that is. Um, because you know what I came to when I realized art was my way through. I just wanted to explore different kinds of it, which is why I, you know, came up with the term creative revolutionist, because it's all just it's a revolution of my soul. It's an opportunity for me to help revolutionize the possibilities for other people. So I'm total, you know, I'm open to being able to learn other forms of art. Yeah, but I don't know. Yes, so but I don't know what I haven't done. And
You can't do because it sounds like maybe not. Ceramics? Have you tried ceramics?
oh, you know what? I haven't tried ceramics, but I'd love ceramic. Oh, yeah, that's a good one, is the ceramics. But that reminds me also glass making. Like I've seen that I have beautiful glass. I love putting up, you know, glass kinds of art in my house, and I have never done that. But that definitely does appeal to me. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you create when you undoubtedly master glass making.
And I just feel like everyone has that potential to be able to explore the different creative sides of themselves. I think sometimes you just have to give yourself permission to be able to do it. And because I spent most of my life not having anyone's permission and waiting for it, doing this, and no one ever really giving me permission to do anything, right? So after a lifetime of that, I've just decided that I have to give myself permission, and we all have to give ourselves permission to fail, and because failing, you learn so much by trying and failing at something and redoing it or whatever. I just think it's a good lesson for all of us to just stretch ourselves a little bit and not get caught up in perfectionism, which is what haunted me a lot in my life, is just trying to make sure I did everything right, that I didn't make any mistakes. And and it sometimes it just boxes you in, and it doesn't allow you to really um be as creative as you could be. But when you step back and say there's no failure here, there's no, just the process is really what it's all about, and not even necessarily the finished product. It's just the learning and the experiencing. I think those things are very valuable. And I encourage people to just, go for it. Don't wait like I did for a long, long time, but just to go for it and experience it for yourself.
I love that. Thank you. So another person is asking, how can we parents help our children use art expressively, even if we don't have art skills ourselves?
Oh,
However,
this is
I
such a
would
good
say
question.
that person might need to explore their own art skills because they're probably hidden somewhere inside of them as well, based on your lessons.
Right, right. But I always so I'm on this committee with the Oregon Community Foundation, and we've been meeting to talk about how can we put more art into the schools and do it in a way where it's not just an art class, like you're learning art with math and you're learning art with science, because it helps your brain process differently. And so as parents, I think it's important to give kids opportunity to try all different kinds of creativity. I think kids are naturally born creatives, right? But then they start hearing this lesson, so you can't, oh, that's not good as, that kind of thing. But anytime that you can have your child uh start to create something that hadn't been there before, even taking them, when my children were small, I took them to the children's museum, where there was it was just like creativity was play. They didn't have to, finish it, they didn't have to do it perfectly, it was just trying different stuff. And that is really, I'm so grateful that um I was, writing as much as I did. It became my career. It came to 25 years of a career, started when I was like pre-kindergarten, trying to put words together and making up stories because I was spending so much time alone. So you just never know what direction that will benefit your child in the long run. But giving them any kind of opportunity to try something new, I think is that's where the magic is. It's not, you have to be perfect at it, because they can always come back to it. um I had to come back to writing. When I first went away to college, I thought I was going to be a business major, because you hear the message, oh, you need to do something that'll make you a lot of money. And so I thought going into business would do that. I could become an entrepreneur or whatever. But it was a journalism school who said, if you switch your major, we'll give you a full ride. And that's how I became a journalist, because I just didn't want to pay the money for tuition. And so then it just because the writing had been seeded when I was much younger, it became something that I was able to expand upon. So you just never know what doors you're opening up for something for your child to walk into in the future. And creativity is like the best thing that you can give a child. Um, and not only just one thing, but several different things. I think that's such an important thing that we could do as parents, is to help our children be as creative as possible, without any judgment, you know.
Right. So we have someone who's also asking whether you have art curriculum that you can share with youth or with educators. So I'm wondering if that person might be an educator themselves, but have you developed anything like that?
Well, I have with my my children's book, because I mean I also spent time as an educator, so I understand how I can't just write a book. I have to break it down with some activities. So with the Awakening of Sharon. It has like a superhero awakening ceremony that's attached to it, where the young people make their own masks. These are the eye masks. This was before the coronavirus.
Hmm.
Uh, they would make their own eye mask and their own capes and decorate them. And then, you know, it also involves singing. We have if I could be brave, I could change the world, kind of song that, you know, we teach the kids. And then we also give them opportunities like templates where they can create their own superhero awaken, you know, their own superhero story. So everything that you know that I do, I try to have some kind of multiple creative entree, right? And so I do that. I also you know, have written I have curriculum around plays, you know, using plays. The Lone Fir Cemetery is like a pioneer cemetery in Portland. A lot of the Portland old time pioneers are buried there. And so teaching our children about the history, for example, of Portland using the cemetery has, you know, it has music, it has dance, it has, you know, but it's all intended to provide information. So there are, you know, there's a numerous different things, curriculum that I have made available. So yes, I'm a big believer in passing on information, and doing it in all different kinds of ways.
So if that, I know you have a website, if that person is interested in finding more out or contacting you, would that be the best way to do so?
Yeah, so I have actually 3 different websites. My personal website is Renee Mitchell Speaks, like in talks.com. So Renee with 2 E's, Mitchell with 2 L's, Speaks with an S, .com, and they can feel free to contact me. Also to make sure that they check out the I Am More. It's IamMoreResilient.com. And there are several different creative projects available that the community is invited to engage in on the spreadingblackjoy.com. So lots of different ways to connect. And I'd love to help and support however I can, especially when it comes to creativity.
Wonderful, thank you. We have another question that's come in. It starts with, Oregon is so white. How do we make sure that students of color see their own cultural art forms in their school experience?
Yeah, that's a real important issue, and that's one of the things that you know, I mentioned the Oregon Community Foundation conversation that's going on now, is really intended to make sure that kids of color in particular are able to get access to art that affirms them. Um, and that's such an important thing. You know, even from my own experience of not feeling affirmed until I was well into my adulthood. um, I think that if there isn't that available in the schools, then it has to, you know, it really is incumbent upon the parents to seek that information out. It's difficult to, unless it's supported from the administration, it's difficult um, to find authentic ways of celebrating different types of culture, because sometimes, you know, if we don't, uh, you know, if we don't take enough time to do it correctly, we end up like, let's have people bring in different foods, or let's let them dress up in this way. But those are really kind of on the periphery. Those don't really get at, you know, the heart of someone's culture. Um, but there's so many different ways that parents can also introduce that. Like, for example, you know, even I didn't know this until I started, you know, pursuing my doctorate at the U of O, right? That I took a class with around art, and we talked about Picasso, and it was the first time that I had learned that he had actually um, been been inspired by some of the African art that he then reflected. Now you know, he was able to change, you know, the way that art was done in his time, but he got that from somewhere else, right? But we aren't taught that some of his art is was inspired by the African masks, and you know, to take them a little bit away from the realism to more of, you know, that kind of. So I think a lot of the until we I don't think we can wait on schools, you know, and I'm a former educator and I'm saying this. I don't think that we can wait for schools to get it together. I mean, certainly they should be. Certainly there should be some requests and some demands that there be more expansive curriculum, but I don't think that parents should necessarily wait on the schools. And that's part of what I'm trying to do with I Am More, is that there is a lot of talk about social emotional learning, but what does that really mean? There's no one size fit all, but but the approach is one size fit all. So providing something outside of the school environment, I felt was really important to help the kids through I Am More, like be able to build up those skills that they're gonna need as adults. So it has to be, you know, in an ideal world, you're having the exposure that you need to art and creativity at home, but while you're waiting or pushing or encouraging teachers and schools to be a little bit more expansive. Sometimes people just don't know where to start. I mean, educators are you know, humans just like us, and sometimes it's like they're used to doing things in a certain way, as we all are, right? And so then the request, well, do better. Like, okay, where do we start, right? And so I think it has to be both. It has to be some pushing from the outside, but also some some attempt to have this at home, you know, as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I did not know that about Picasso's influences, but I think that is something that translates or carries through all subjects at school, is that the curriculum is written from a certain white perspective, and a lot of that throughout all of the subjects ends up currently in some of the education systems being lost. So
Right.
I'm glad to hear about the work that you're doing outside the school system, and hopefully there can be a little bit more of that push, as you said, to get the schools to start to address some of those changes as well. But yes, recognizing that teachers are in many cases overwhelmed, especially right now with COVID and online teaching. So it's a difficult balance, but I appreciate the work that you're doing. I don't see any other questions at the moment, other than one final one, which I was saving towards the end. So I'll give everyone about 10 more seconds to maybe add something. All right, so we'll end with a question about whether there is anywhere where someone can purchase your art.
Which art? Which kind of art?
Well, I'm guessing broad, expansive definition of art. I'm sure your book that you've mentioned might be available somewhere for people, but then any other works that you've produced. You mentioned you had done that painting show.
Mhm, mhm.
So if you have any examples that you would like to share with people.
Well, I appreciate the interest in my art. I would have to say that I produce art for the love of the creative process. And one thing I don't do as well is to figure out how to sell it or how to just push it out there. I just love doing it because it's calming to me and it helps me be centered. And so I have a whole room full of things that I've created that are not really for sale anywhere. But I'm working on that. I'm working on trying to put it into the marketplace because, that's not really why I tried to do it. I really just wanted to push the boundaries of what I could accomplish with different forms of art. So there may be things on my website, but you might have to contact me like personally. We could set up a no touch thing or something. But
Sounds
yes.
like you need an Etsy shop or something.
Yeah, people have been talking to me about getting an Etsy shop, but it's like
Uh,
I'm really busy already.
exactly right. And it's nice to have something like to have a creative process that you're doing for yourself, rather than doing it for other people per se, or for trying to um, earn an income off of that. Like, it's
Yeah.
nice to have an outlet that just satisfies and completes you personally in that way.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and leave it there. I want to thank you so much again for joining us this evening. Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a restful holiday and that you're staying well. To everyone who tuned in tonight, thanks for joining us. We are planning to stay virtual on Ideas on Tap throughout the winter and spring, but I hope that we'll be able to gather in person again sometime soon. So thank you all so much again.
Thank you for coming.
Have a good night.